So I picked up a set of these Arne Vodder teak dining chairs for only €175, which would have been a crazy good deal had they not been painted black. To be fair though, it is still quite a good deal, but only if I can get all of that black paint off them again. And we're not talking about a cabinet or a table here, we're talking about a set of 6 chairs with lots of tight corners and curved surfaces, and so I'm kind of rolling the dice here and just hoping that somehow I'll be able to transform them back to their original condition, or at least as close to original as possible. The leather is in pretty rough shape as well, and it's pretty clear that these chairs have been stacked with the seats touching and left in storage for years, maybe even decades, and so we've got lots of cracking and general degradation of the leather, which is not going to be easy to repair either. In any case, the first thing I need to do is remove the seats so that I can start the process of stripping the paint, and it will be a process. Stripping away old lacquer is always a messy job, but doing it with paint is even messier, basically because of all of the extra cleaning and scrubbing that's going to be required to get all the paint out of the pores. The upside of this project is that the chairs are in excellent structural condition with no cracking or wobbly joints or anything that needs repairing. It looks to me like they've been sitting in storage more than they've actually been used, which is definitely a selling point. Unlike painting, using paint stripper is not so much about getting smooth or equal coverage, but rather building up a really thick coating. What you want is to get it to soak into the surface as deeply as possible and loosen up all that paint so that you don't have to put a second coat on later on, although with these chairs that may be unavoidable. Only time will tell. After giving the stripper about 30 minutes to soak in, I can start the process of scraping it back off again. And I gotta be honest here, there are some jobs that come along sometimes that I really don't want to do, and this is one of them. It's freezing cold, and it's just really laborious and messy work where you have to invest a lot of time and energy before you even begin to see any results. There is a certain amount of satisfaction when you can scrape off the flat areas cleanly and get most of the paint off in one go, but these areas are in the minority, and most of it is just really fiddly and repetitive, and I'm glad that I don't have to do too many jobs like this. So why am I doing it then? Well, because I think these designs are worth preserving. Nobody's going to use them or buy them in their current state, and I feel that the real tragedy would be if they were thrown out or destroyed when they could still be saved and made to look elegant and attractive again. They just don't make furniture like this anymore. You can't buy it new, and so although I do need to be compensated for my time, it's more about the satisfaction of bringing something back to life again, even though it's not always fun or easy. And just as I thought, I'm going to have to put a second coat of paint stripper on these chairs. What they need is to be scrubbed with a wire brush so that all of that paint deep in the pores is lifted out, and I feel like the paint stripper is probably the best option to help that happen. The last time I did this, I tried using solvents, and the problem I had was that the solvents and the paint would dry again before you had a chance to wipe them off. What I'm hoping here is that the paint stripping gel with some hot soapy water and a bunch of different brushes will basically just let me scrub all the paint off like you would anything else. And although there's still a way to go yet, we're at least getting to the point now where we can see what this timber looks like and how it might look once it's been refinished. What really stands out to me here is how much lighter they're looking after being dried off compared to the dark amber tones they had when wet. Moving on to the sanding, I'm now feeling like we're getting somewhere here. My hope is that I might be able to get away with doing a single pass on all the chairs using P180 sandpaper, but the surface is just a bit too rough and I'm chewing through too much sandpaper. So I'm going to do a first pass with P120 and then follow it up with P180. There are still a couple of areas where I'll need to use the wire brush and some water again though, just to get those last specks of paint out of the pores. At this stage in the process, I had invested about 8 hours of work into each individual chair, from stripping and scrubbing the paint off to getting them sanded and ready to be finished. So we're talking almost 50 hours of work so far, which is even more than I thought it would be. But fortunately, the finishing process is going to be a little more straightforward and slightly less time consuming than what I would normally do. What I'm doing here is basically making my own Danish oil by using a mixture of Waterlogg's tung oil varnish, boiled linseed oil and mineral turpentine at an approximate ratio of 1:1:1. I have tried something similar before, but the idea this time is to take the rich amber color tones and the hardness of the tung oil varnish and basically dilute them a little. What I'm hoping is that not only will I be able to lighten the color a little, but I'll also prevent it from forming a visible film on the surface of the wood. So although it will definitely form a hard seal when it's dry, it'll have more of a natural oiled look than a glossy or lacquered appearance. After saturating the wood and letting it soak in for about 15 minutes or so, I'll wipe off the excess with a fresh cloth and let it dry off overnight. I started out using a brush here, but to be honest, I don't think it makes much difference what you use, just as long as you're getting enough saturation. So even with the second and third coats, I'm still following the exact same process of saturating the wood until it's practically dripping and then wiping off the excess after about 15 minutes or so. And after 3 coats, I let everything dry off for a good 48 hours or so before moving on to the polishing. I'm using Howard's Orange Oil and Beeswax Polish, which really has become my go-to wax product over the last year or so, and although I would normally be very sparing and conservative with it, these chairs are really eating up the wax, so I'm having to use a lot more than usual to get a consistent sheen. I'm applying it with fine steel wool, grade 000, and then I'm buffing out the excess after about 15 minutes or so with a lint-free polishing cloth. So the chair frames are now done, and I'm just going to install some new felt gliders here. As far as the damaged leather seats go, I've actually already got a buyer for these chairs, and she's decided that she wants them reupholstered with fabric. But what I've done is basically just tidied up a couple of the original leather seats with some black leather paint, just so I can still do a reveal and show you guys what the finished product looks like. I'm actually going to do the upholstery myself, but that will have to be another video, so keep an eye out for that on my Instagram or the Shorts feed. On the whole, I'm pleased with the way these turned out. They are a little darker than I thought they would be, but it seems like this wood is naturally a little darker anyway, although the fact that they've been painted black also probably has something to do with it. What's important is that it's an original and natural looking finish, and so these chairs can now be used and appreciated for another generation. If you've made it this far and you want to support the channel, please do like and subscribe. Until next time though, thanks for watching.